Well, thank you everyone for joining us for the 7th session in our online marketing series. We are very proud to have Jason Elkins with us here today to talk about email marketing. We do want to give a shout out and thanks to the Southern Extension Risk Management Program and the United States Department of Agriculture for providing grant funding to make this program possible. And we will ask you to complete an evaluation at the end that helps us report to our granting agency. And of course, it helps us plan for the future. But the better we can report to the agency, the more likely they are to consider us when we ask them for more money in the future. So we appreciate their support. Just a few housekeeping items. We will leave everybody's microphone off except for the speaker. So leave your microphones on mute if you would. And thank you all for typing your names and locations into the chat box. That helps us to figure out who's joining us today. We are recording the session, and I will post that online and in case you want to review it again or share the link with somebody else. And we do want to remind you, encourage you, maybe even challenge you to take some notes during the session and jot down something that you would like to try to implement. I know there will be at least one golden nugget in here for you and your operation, maybe several of those, and I plan to learn a lot myself. But we do know that by creating some written goals, maybe after the session, that helps us to be much more successful and at implementing those, and we hope that you will take what you learned today and make it work for you and your business. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to give it back to, I'm going to give Jason all the power. And welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. If you would tell us a little bit about yourself and well, looky there, you're going to do that, and then share your wisdom about email marketing.
Sure. I have been involved in some sort of sales and marketing for my entire career, over the last 25 years or so, and what I've developed here over the last decade is a consulting practice where I'm helping companies figure out how to utilize technology today to reach their audience. Everything has kind of been flipped on its head over the last 5, 6, 7 years as far as what traditional marketing looked like. And I have the blessing, the opportunity to work with people to kind of figure out how do we take what we used to know that used to work and transition it into some different ways. So I'm a marketing coach. Most of the projects that I work on are coming alongside business owners and helping them, as opposed to outsourced gun for hire for projects. So it involves a lot of listening and then kind of helping teach and coach, as opposed to kind of the done for you services. There's lots of those out there as well. But I really enjoy that piece of it, and helping other business owners has been just it's a great way to spend my day. So I'm lucky to do that. And I'm trying to figure out a way to hide these other boxes. Can you just see the presentation, or do you see the chats as well? Chat box as well. Could somebody tell me that?
I am just seeing the presentation. Do you all
Perfect.
see this?
That's great.
Okay.
Okay. So to kind of start on the business of even just thinking through your marketing, and I'm making some assumptions, and without everybody's mics on, it's hard to know kind of where you are. Just give me, if anybody could just put a rating. 5, you're an expert at email marketing, and 1, you're just getting started or just want to learn, just so I kind of know, I can kind of gauge where the audience is. Thanks for typing those. That's awesome. Okay, great. Excellent. Um, as those scroll through, it kind of gives me an idea. But what I wanted to do is let's talk for a minute about marketing from the early inception. And this isn't going to be some rambling thing. This is just kind of getting us started. But historically, I need to do something here to move this chat box out of my way. Thank you. All right. Historically, marketing was all about the businesses that were selling products. So we told you what we wanted you to do. There are entire industries based on this. If I think of Procter & Gamble in the 50s, basically telling the world that Americans are smelly and need to change their hygiene, and going about that through advertising campaigns, kind of help build New York in some ways. And the whole idea was they would come up with the problem and then sell you the solution. So if you think about that in traditional terms, like advertisements like Be Like Mike is a very popular advertisement that was basically saying if you drink Gatorade, you can play basketball really well. And which is ridiculous because I've tried it and it does not work. You cannot dunk just because you drink Gatorade. But that was kind of this mess. Their whole messaging was about that. There was a Miller Lite ad campaign. Less filling tastes great. I read an article about the person that originated that, and he was mortified that people were chanting that in the stands at some football games, but over time. But the idea that I'll drink this beer and I won't get filled up, or even worse than that, Budweiser, where I open a can of beer and women in bikinis come running out of the mountains. It just does not happen that way. So the whole concept of these commercials telling you what they wanted you to do is kind of preposterous, but that was how advertising was up until fairly recently. The worst ad copy ever written, Don't You Leave Till You See Me. That was a Kia commercial guy he's had some legal problems, but as an example, that was kind of his platform, and the idea that I want to go talk to the manager at a car place when I'm buying a car is ridiculous as well. I don't want to see the manager. I just want to deal with the person I'm dealing with, get my car and go. So that whole concept is not the same now. Today, our marketing is all about the consumer. We only care about the consumer now. We listen to them. We want to kind of partner with them. There's no separation either. So in the past, there would be, if I had a coffee mug that had a faulty handle, that company may get away with selling that coffee mug for a long time before someone would push back and they would get enough feedback. And now the coffee handle needs to be fixed. That might be a 6-8 month process. Now, if somebody buys a product from you today and they don't like it, they can light you up on Twitter or Facebook right now. The idea that there is no separation anymore between the consumer and the end user, or in the production company or the manufacturer or the farm, it's a little scary. If you are not very focused on customer service, you can get killed on social media or digital marketing. Does everybody agree with that? And anybody experience this where maybe the thing that they sold wasn't exactly what the consumer was expecting? They will again let you up immediately if there's a problem. So it's something to think about as we're building products and growing products and selling to the consumer, that the customer service has to be great, and so does the product. There's no way to get around it anymore. And if we think about kind of what this has done to advertising, we are so looking for organic and authentic experiences, food, drinks, the way that we go about our world is basically set up now on these kind of authentic scenarios. So I look at, like, when the big boys start to notice this and do something about it with their advertising, the rest of us have to pay attention. So in the last slide, Nike, instead of saying drink this drink and dunk a basketball, they have an ad that says this shoe works if you do. They want to partner with you on your health. So it's a different environment now than it ever has been. And I would say that could be a very good thing for the people that are selling from the farm. People have a different relationship with food than they ever had before as well. So this can be a very good thing for us. But we're going to have to get more personal and have our advertisements feel more organic. So as an example, when the Dos Equis commercial came out, I thought of, would Toyota ever launch an advertisement or a commercial that said, I don't always drive a Toyota? Like that was unheard of. The idea that you could have a product or a service and tell the world, hey, we know you don't always use this. That was never the case before. The product was always front and center, always being used, and in kind of this inauthentic way. Right now, in our society, we're seeking organic. We're seeking these better relationships, profitability-wise. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the organic section within any grocery store is some of the most profitable grocery sections. Is that correct? Is that what your experience is as well? You all know more than I do in that. And reality TV is the biggest thing on TV, and it's actually way cheaper to produce than a regular television show. But that the idea that it's quote unquote reality makes us connect to those people more. Thanks, Megan. That makes sense. Certainly more expensive. That's right. We see these organic platforms. Even YouTube they're creating hundreds of their own shows. YouTube is actually in production to compete with like a CBS or an NBC. They want their own shows. So why am I bringing all this up in an email marketing discussion? We need to have a better relationship with our audience than we ever have. Trusted recommendations are a key for buying, and the idea that I saw an ad a while ago for Sleep Number Bed where they said, ask your friends on Facebook what their most comfortable mattress is, and basically they'll tell you that the Sleep Number Bed is one of the most comfortable mattresses. And I thought that was interesting. They were willing to piggyback on the conversations that were already happening. People were already doing this, and kind of lead the charge to get some of the market share for that, not worrying about the ramifications if some people said that they didn't like that for whatever reason. So, okay, thank you for the information here, folks. This is great. Okay. The idea that we can now partner with our consumers in a more authentic way should be something that as people that are focused on farming and kind of organic products and services should be a good sign, a good thing, good time for us. I want you to think about a couple things before we dive into some examples, and I take some questions here. The ownership of these social media platforms. I do a lot of presentations, a lot of speaking on social. We don't own Facebook. We don't own Twitter. We don't own YouTube. We don't own Instagram. Like, these are not platforms that we own. So, and just like we wouldn't own a billboard, we would own the content on the billboard. We don't own the radio station. We would own the content on the radio station. the idea of ownership is something to consider. I've been doing this long enough where I was in a meeting one time with a person that said, wait, I have to spend money, I have to put effort into Facebook? I just got done spending a bunch of money on MySpace. And and I was like, okay, that's great. Nobody's there anymore. The idea that you're not going to keep up with kind of the latest trends in business doesn't really work out that well. But the idea of ownership, when it comes to what we own as business, we would own our website and we would own our email list. And those are things that we should be thinking as much of or more of than just what are we putting on Facebook, what are we putting on Instagram, what kind of videos are we uploading to YouTube. The idea that what we can do and build as assets are a really good website and experience there, and then our email list. And I think people a lot of times don't see the value or are kind of untapped in their email. Even successful companies are not realizing what they're leaving on the table by not having a great email platform, great email campaign. Every time you post or put any message out to the world, it's a mini autobiography. It's just something I want you to kind of process in your head. What I always suggest is doing the thumb test. So if you see this Nike ad here, if you were to cover up the logo and just look at the image, you can ask yourself, is this on brand and does this represent Nike well? And the player actually kind of looks like a swoosh. So, and we see Nike do this a lot with black colors and kind of stark, either black and white or stark pops of color. So this feels very authentic. In the old days of the advertising world, when a pamphlet or a product would be produced, the art director would cover up the logo just to make sure that was quote unquote on brand. So when we're talking social, I would suggest covering up your logo, reading through your posts on your personal or business page, and decide, is that the message that you want the world to have about you? Every time you're posting, it's a mini autobiography. Anytime you send an email out, it's a mini autobiography. You're basically building the case of the kind of person that you are based on what people read and perceive of you. So that's something to really take into consideration, especially in the times that we're in right now, where there's an outrage culture. There's a lot happening in the media that gets blown up. So these are always things to consider. And I suggest to business owners, have a good idea of who you are and talk about those things, and don't kind of drift into some of these political storms. So that's Jason's rant on everybody be nice to each other today. So, but the idea that we can use these platforms to kind of brand ourselves is great. It's good. It's actually good news for us. So let's actually look at some email concepts here. Sorry, I keep moving this box out of the way. The latest information is email is read on a mobile device 60% of the time that it gets sent out. Is this when you're reading emails from your customers, are you doing that on a mobile device or your computer? Can you just somebody just shout at me here in the chat? Is this true with you as well? I'd be interested to see that. The idea that in the past we would build an email to be read on a computer screen, we can kind of take that and throw that out the window right now. There's some stat I just read that 60% of 18 to 30-year-olds are on their phones before they're out of bed in the morning, reading email, Facebook, looking at Instagram. And I thought that was interesting. It's probably low. There's a lot of people that do this, where we're just kind of addicted to phones. The idea that So that means as we're building an email, we have to be thinking about what screen is it going to be read on? What is the size of the screen? And that should also tell us how much information we can reasonably put out to an audience to keep their attention. Our attention spans are short. So when we're talking about emailing, we need to make sure that those emails are optimized for mobile. It's okay if it's optimized for mobile. Someone can still read it on a desktop, but it's not okay the opposite way. People want to have a good experience on their mobile device with their email. Okay, so make sure that it's optimized size-wise. Also, make sure that the email is about the consumer. So as an example, 30% off of carrots is not necessarily about the consumer. It's more about the company that's selling the carrots. But how to make the best carrot juice cocktail you've ever had in your life would be more about the consumer. And oh, by the way, we've got a great discount on carrots. So it's a big difference in who the message is for and who the message is about. I'm going to show you some examples of that. Also, keep the stories, think about story content as opposed to just marketing language. Telling stories about someone that has bought certain products their entire life that have now switched to organic and what it's doing to their body and their mind and their health would be a really interesting story, and also tying into your audience versus, again, 30% off on carrots. The thing that I tell my customers is make sure that you have really one message and one action that you're sending per email. You're going to basically train your audience on how to interact with you. I'm going to show you an example of, this one's kind of fun. This is a friend of mine that does consulting on LinkedIn. And when he sends his emails out, it doesn't start even with my name up here. Just starts out with, by the time I discovered, this is his email. And he has one link asking you to do one thing. And this is actually the same link. And this process with information, link, information, link, and those two go to the same things is, this isn't gospel according to Jason here. This is a proven best practice for businesses. If you want them to come to your website to purchase something, make sure that you have the link twice. This is going to sound silly. People are so lazy with their time, or so distracted that they won't scroll back up to click a link. So just think about this, okay? So as you're putting this in there, I can sign up here or I can sign up above, okay? So this is something that I think is interesting. It's a way to kind of stand out, and this person uses his personality and some gifts in there as well. That's Megan's. There's one more that I wanted to show you from a, let's see. Okay. So I'm speaking at the Portland Chamber of Commerce, but I want you to see their email. It starts out August 8th, kind of gives me the time of day. And then they say the members of the day, but they list a bunch of them, okay? Then they want to welcome a new member. Then they're promoting, looks like it's someone for city council. And then they have some office furniture for sale. And then they have a job fair. And then they're promoting their music event. Then they have a farm to table dinner. It's like, when is this going to end? Like, this doesn't end. It just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And if I'm a consumer reading this on a phone, I don't know what to do. Like, they're not giving me a clear path to even know what to click on. Is this resonating with y'all? Like, does this make it sense that this would be completely overwhelming for someone to read on their mobile device? Just hit me in the chat there. Also, let me know if this pace is okay. Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate the feedback. So let's jump back into, thanks, King Library, if that's your real name. So those ideas, the idea is to really focus on one message with one link telling them to do one thing. Okay, so that's a different mindset than a lot of business owners have. When I first start talking to them, oh, great question, Christopher. So I believe that one long email is worse than 10 that contain one message. And here's why. There's no way that I'm going to react or interact with something that has 10 different things for me to think about. It's not possible for me to have a good experience with this email. If I'm getting, so can you tell me a little bit, just give me a little bit more information about what it is that you are promoting through email or what you sell? The idea that you could segment lists of people that are more interested in one product over the other and only send them what they want, that's really the ideal for email marketing. I was talking to a local wine store that went up, and they've got a ton of inventory, and it's a very large organization, and they have wine tastings, and they have beer on tap, and they have liquors, and I mean, they have everything basically. And what I told them in the beginning is, if you could figure out the people that are interested in mostly wine, then and focus and target messages to those people, and not send the messages out to the people that don't like wine, that are only interested in the liquor, and talk to the people that are interested in liquor about liquor, you're going to be way ahead of the game, as opposed to sending out a mass email to everybody that's interested in anything, hoping to kind of throw a net out there to catch a few. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So the basically honey and beeswax based products and fresh produce, people don't want to get a lot of emails. You're right. You may have some fun with that. In the title or in the subject line of the email, it could be, you could talk about specifically beeswax, specifically honey, or specifically produce, so the people that are opening those emails feel like they're getting what they're expecting when they get that. Instead of, Christopher Robin's produce, a message from Christopher Robin, as opposed to just that, it would be more like, this is something specifically about honey-based products or beeswax-based products. So I hope that helps, but you're right. The frequency is important. I will tell you that the people that I know that are most successful doing content marketing put out way more content than you would feel comfortable with on the outset. So thinking through that for a minute, I may unsubscribe from somebody that's spamming me, what I would consider spamming me, sending me too much. But I read the emails from the businesses and the companies that I like. So if you're building a better relationship, you're able to send more frequent emails. I hope that answers your question. You're going to get zero response or very low response rate if you send something that has 10 products and services. Whereas if you send something that has one, you're way more likely to get positive feedback. And I think when it comes to email marketing, less confusion and very much clear messaging is really important for you to win. Any follow up on that or anybody else? You're basically training your audience on how you want them to interact with you. So here's an example. This may help us a little bit. Here's an example of something that I received from CVS Pharmacy. This is one email. There were, and I probably do need some vitamins and a Fitbit, but the idea that they sent this to me in a way that was confusing enough for me to go, I don't even know what to do with this. It's very confusing. Whereas, let me show you an example of something that wasn't like that. Let me see. So this is a little bit of a hybrid. I've been telling most of my clients be very careful about how many graphics and how graphic intensive you're putting in there. Again, if this is on a mobile device, is this going to be a good experience? I'm a little bit iffy on this. This is okay because it's basically one message. Give us some feedback. That's what they're asking for. And they want me to share my experience with others. So that's okay. This is kind of one message. It doesn't feel very personal, but at least it's not, here's a discount for this. This is what we do on your birthday. Bring friends and save 20%. Like, it's very, they're just asking me to do basically one thing here. Another CVS example, and this one in particular is a little better than the one that just had kind of stuff all over, and they tell me that they're maybe about families. But again, do I have dry skin, and do I need help with digestion, and do I have a cold? And oh, by the way, we have short wait times at the doctor's office. So, like, it's still confusing. See all we can do is a button that I click at the top. Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's all about. So again, it's confusing. And the problem is they've been doing this long enough that they probably get some responses on these, and some responses that equate to some purchases keep them going down this direction when they could be doing a whole lot better, in my opinion. So here's an example. This is something that I've been tracking with, and this was a company. This is the Gospel Music Association. They've been a client on and off for about 6 years. We talked specifically about this process with using their email for marketing purposes, and they're promoting a big conference. So the conference comes up, and instead of sending them a message that basically said tickets are on sale, they're sending out messages talking about people's experiences with this conference. And you'll notice the paragraph link process is here as well. This is something that, again, is continuing to prove that that this is kind of good design versus a bunch of graphics and sending everybody a bunch of messages. So what this did, they put out this information. We have this. Have you ever had this landmark experience? Click on to find out what happened to Charity at the Immerse conference. Her goal was this. Click here to find out what happened. Those two links are exactly the same. They sold more tickets to this event sooner than they had ever done prior to doing any kind of email marketing. And what happened was, when people clicked on the link, they were taken to the website. The website had a video discussing, it was just Charity sitting in a room discussing the experiences that she had at this conference that were super positive. they're actually getting emails back thanking them for sending them information. So thank you for this message that I got. And I said, when was the last time you got thanked for sending somebody a marketing message? It's basically, that's what this is. So I think about, let's pick on the Beeswax products. Can you give me a couple examples of what a specific Beeswax product may be? Is it a lip balm thing? Is it, what is that exactly, Christopher? Because we could kind of talk in some specifics there. But again, maybe you're sending out a message, sharing with people directly how they can benefit from the use of your Beeswax product. So is it a recipe? Is it better skin care? Is it better health? Is it wound care? Is it better tea? Are you making mead? Like what is it? What is it specifically about that? So you could send a specific message about that with a link back to your website talking about that experience, and then that would also have the product for sale there. Or if anybody has any specifics about what they're selling, maybe I can pick on you. We could make that as an example for one message. So going back, this was the latest Immerse. I actually just got this a few days ago, and similar thing here. They took off all graphics, which I think is great. Sometimes we fall in love with our own logos and our own hype. Keeping things clean, because let's say that, like, even Megan and I now, when we're sending emails, it's, hey, check this out, or hey, good talking to you. Can you give me this information back, or whatever? We're sending stuff back and forth like friends do, as opposed to very structured, highly graphic email. And that's what you want your emails to feel like. They need to feel like they're coming from a friend. So this is another example, and again, it's paragraph link, some modification of that, but you kind of see that this pattern developing here. Okay, next one. Here's something else to think about. So this is an email I sent out to my list, and what I basically did is talked about a story, and then shared a link to a video. And basically, this is kind of a personal story about how a company that I was doing some work for told me I didn't listen well, which shocked me. And my wife confirmed that was actually the case. So I had to change some of the things that I was doing in business. And I recorded this video about it. So basically, I didn't even give them the whole story in the email. I just gave them some kind of, this is the reason why I made this, and then a link back to my website that had the video and the opportunity for them to kind of interact with me there. So the email is really just this hook to get them to another place, which is on your site typically. Or it could be if you're selling products on another website like an Amazon or something like that, you could drive them there as well to make a purchase. But the email is really the hook to get them to come there. Okay, so let's talk about systems for a minute and some things to kind of stay away from. I like MailChimp. I use MailChimp. Is anyone using an email newsletter system like this, and which one? There's plenty. There's Constant Contact. There's Emma. Some websites have their own built-ins. Can you just jump in the chat and tell me which platform you're using if you are using one? Ooh, wow. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of MailChimp. I love the reporting aspect. I love the reporting aspect of it for sure. It's also pretty easy to set up and use. And I actually love their customer service as well and the way that they communicate. Yeah, Squarespace. Yep, Wix has one built in as well. And they all have similar functions. The reason that you always want to use a system is that it's against the law to send a bulk email out to your potential clients without having a system where they can opt out easily. And there's some other rules, that just kind of basic rules that these systems have, that don't allow you to basically break the Cant Spam Act, which I've got a link to. It'll surprise you a little bit. I talk to a lot of customers that want to buy a list and then send that list out to their audience, or send an email out to that list. That is actually against the Cant Spam Act, which is it's federal law about how we receive this, and people break it all the time. We get the emails that we never signed up for, but you're really supposed to have the email. They're supposed to opt in. They're supposed to interact with you in business and know that you have your email. So let's say that Megan and I had a lawn care business, and tomorrow we want to change that, and we want to have a business that's doing roofing. I cannot take that lawn care business email, even though I own that business or we own that business, and start a roofing business and use that same email. I can't do that. That's against the law. And unfortunately, I had some experiences early on in my business where I was part of a chamber, and when I started this business, I actually took the chamber newsletter and used it for my new company, and I actually got banned from using MailChimp for a period of time. I had to basically apologize and send a letter that said I didn't know any better, and then they basically let me have my lists and my account back. I don't know if anybody's had this experience. I hope you haven't, but it's a real thing. Okay, so we don't want to buy lists. We don't want to scrape people's emails from Facebook or any other place and start sending them or adding them to our list. One of the things that the Cant Spam Act also talks about is subject lines. So you got to be careful about your subject lines. You couldn't have something, you could not have something where the subject line is not truthful. So you couldn't have something that says, watch these chickens hatch out of the eggs, and then you go and the email isn't about that at all. So someone's asking a question. Nick's asking. Yeah, if you buy a business and that list has been curated, do you need to start? A lot of times you're negotiating with that group that you're going to basically buy their business and take their email list. In that case, what I would do to protect myself is I would have that business actually send an email saying that this is coming or that this is happening, or maybe that's your first order of business is saying that please sign up for our new newsletter. It's going to be XYZ. So just to protect yourself. A lot of times you're buying assets, and a lot of times a list is an asset for the business. You just have to be a little bit careful about that. But as an example, one of the health clubs that I was a member of was bought by a new company, and I got an email saying, we are under new ownership now. Unsubscribe unless they basically gave me the option to work with them. So, but Nick, if you want to email me afterwards, I can do some more research for you on that. There's a link. There's a link here that has more information about that as well. Yeah, Peter, great question. He says, can you port the list from MailChimp over to CRM like Salesforce? Who owns the email list? If you've built the email list through the proper ways, then you can use that in other content management systems for sure. So like, let's say that we're going from MailChimp to Constant Contact. That's fine. You've already built it correctly in MailChimp. You can then use that for Constant Contact. Great question. Is that what you're asking? So Yeah, you would own that email list in that case. Okay, so let me, I think I have a slide about this actually. So here's the sad truth. Nobody wants to read your newsletter. Okay. The way that you get people to sign up for a newsletter today is having what I would call an irresistible offer. That irresistible offer is going to look like, so let's say that, again, I'm going to go back to the Beeswax. Let's say that we have, like, you might have something on your website that says 7 uses for beeswax that will improve your health dramatically. Sign up for, or put your email in, we'll send you that list. So you want to have some offer for your audience on your website to entice them to get your email. Saying sign up for our newsletter doesn't work anymore. Saying something like top 4 ways to make sure your trees never die, and having a PDF that outlines the way to save trees would be a way to get somebody to sign up for my newsletter list if I'm in that business. Or something that is of interest to your audience. And if you have specifics that you want to ask me about that, we could talk about what an irresistible offer might look like for you. But this is really critical. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time building your list. I would also suggest, if you're doing farmers markets and things like that, at the table, ask them to sign up for your list. Give them an extra tomato. Give them something that has value, but from a cost standpoint, doesn't cost you too much. Some incentive to sign up for the list, because once you figure out how to mine your email, this can be a very, very good profit center for you. So the irresistible offer is key. I like that. Yeah. You want them to sign up their friends for emails? That may be a little bit of a gray area. Maybe get them to sign up. We could talk about that. How does an opt-in go viral? I think if I'm understanding the question, Peter, and I've got on my website, I have a document that basically says, this is how you network. This is how you network better. I have this concept. The reason my business is called 100 Cups is I met with 100 business people in 100 days for 100 cups of coffee as I started my business. So I was able to generate revenue and build better relationships. And now anytime my sales funnel looks flat, I just kick up the coffee meeting thing again. I wrote an ebook, so I'm offering that on my website for people to download. And people that are interested in building relationships and having more business can be a potential client for me. So it works that the people that are downloading that, and I get signups, a couple signups. It's weekly, so it's a slow build, but the targeting is good. I'm not sure about the viral nature of that. If you want to ask me that again or send me a longer email. Yeah, okay, in-person selling. Yeah, there you go. So that something, if someone's standing across the table from you, getting them to do some things at the table is a good idea. I think this is a missed opportunity at every farmer's market. Having a list of just sign up for our email for this thing would be a way that you could build a list pretty quickly, I would think. The consistency is important. If there's nothing worse than sending an email out to a dead list. People unsubscribe. People, they say, I never signed up for it, even though they did. So the consistency is really, really critical. So once you start an email campaign, I would encourage you to continue on that road and trying and testing things as well. So, but list building is a skill that's done over time. It's not something that typically happens overnight. So I wanted to make sure I had enough time to take any specific questions. Is there anything that we talked about that, oh gosh, I can't believe how fast that went. Is there anything that we've talked about that you want me to unpack a little more, or if you have something specific and you want to jump in and ask a question, I'd be happy to help you with that. Maybe I could talk about open rates for a minute. Great question, Wendy. Open rates on emails, industry standard, depending on what industry you're in, is somewhere between 16 and 18%. It's really a challenge when you spend a lot of time writing an email out and then have the open rate be quote unquote so low. But that's why we have to be consistent in sending these. Okay, so yeah, you guys are asking great questions. So newsletter, weekly, bi-monthly. Great question, Megan. So let me just answer this really quick. I believe that weekly is not too frequent if the content is good. So if you're sending out things that are getting opens and being read and you're getting some clicks and you're beating the average, then weekly is not too much. So if you can manage that, that's just going to make you have a better relationship with your customers. And I'm a sole proprietor. I understand it gets crazy busy. Sometimes we can't meet that. So, but once a month is probably not enough to make a major impact on your business unless you have a giant list. And the only way you build your list is by being more consistent. So it's kind of like it's catch-22 in a way. You need to send out fairly regular emails to have it make a big impact. So Rebecca says, we currently only send one email a month. I think you can definitely. So yes, blogging is great. And that's something that gives you Google fresh content to search on your website, which will help you rank better. So if you're blogging regularly, that's great. And then you could certainly send out an email to your audience that says, come and read the blog. What I would encourage you not to do is just copy and paste the blog into the email. Don't make it that easy for them. I would send out an email that basically says, this is why we wrote this blog for you. This is the problem that we saw with some of our customers. This is what this will solve for you. Click this link here. So basically, you're kind of giving them the teaser, the headline, a little bit of a summary. If you want to learn more, click here to come back over to the website. So again, you're training those people to come back to the website as opposed to just hanging out and giving them everything in this email and not asking them to do anything. Because then if you train them to do that, then they'll not click and come over to buy or buy a ticket or come and see you at such and such event. You asked a great question. It's a better day, time of the week to send. For a long time, Tuesday morning was supposed to be the best day to send that. We have so many remote workers now that I've been testing with Sundays and having some good luck on a Sunday morning. The best email open rate I've ever had was on a Sunday. So I'm kind of testing some different days. Your audience will tell you through the statistics when a good day for them is. I would suggest never sending something unless you have something great to say. So don't basically dial it in. It's not going to help you. But if you have something good to say, then I would stay away from Fridays. But other than that, I think you're good to go if you've got something consistent and something good to say. You're going to get a lot of consultants that will pinpoint, okay, Tuesday morning at such and such a time is the right time. And everybody's audience is a little bit different. It's going to be some trial and error. But if you avoid Fridays and have something good to say, I think you're good at any time. Morning is I would always default to morning, though. So Rebecca, you asked, you said you only send an email once a month. You do have a blog. is the message that you're sending, I'd just be curious, is the message that you're sending out now through your newsletter different than what you're blogging about? I'm just curious. Wendy says, if we don't have a blog, but we have a consistent newsletter, should we still blog? Yes. And I wrote an article that I'll send this presentation to Megan along with a couple links. I wrote an article on how to write a blog in 20 minutes. That might help some of you. I think that fresh content on your website is critical for you to continue to rank well without having to spend money on someone running Google ads for you. So I'm kind of a bootstrap guy. I'm looking for an angle to leverage always. And if you set out and can write a blog a week, that's 52 more pages of content that you have on your website than the next person competing with Google for that space. So regular blogging can be a very, very big help to you. There was a person in Goodlettsville here that was writing blogs about he's a weaponsmith, and he was writing a blog about the Glock pistol trigger pull and how to modify it somehow. And his blog, which is just a WordPress free blog, was outranking Glock's website when you went to search for something like that. And he was getting more business specifically on what he liked based on writing these articles and these blogs every week than he was way before when he wasn't doing that. He was working on stuff that he didn't really want to work on. So the blog can really help you. So let's see, blog. Is the ranking true for commercial sites? Commerce sites. So yes, if you're selling, you could still do the same thing on an e-commerce site. Yep, as well. Google is always looking for fresh content. So if I'm uploading pictures of, let's say I've got an Etsy store or something or an embedded store on a Squarespace site, and I'm uploading pictures, I'm going to make sure that each picture has as much information as I can give you about that thing. And I may even write an additional blog about that as well. So yeah, that can really help you for sure. I'm reading your, Rebecca, I'm reading your thing here. Okay. So I like what you're doing. So the blogs are a little bit more specific topics where the website may be kind of current sale items and things like that. I think, I don't think that's a bad strategy. I think that I would up the personal aspect, maybe showcasing the trees. So instead of just showing the trees and what they have for sale, maybe talk about the best layout in your yard or where to put them, for optimal sunshine, or how to keep them watered efficiently, or someone that's bought them that's having a great experience. So just kind of more personal. I hope that helps. I hope that helps you. And again, if you have specific questions, you can email me. I'm happy to respond through email for on any of these. And while we are, I can't believe we're out of time so fast. You're welcome, Wendy. Thanks, Rebecca. Glad this has been helpful. And again, I'll send a copy of this presentation along with some additional links on things that might be able to help you, how to blog faster. And if you do have some specific questions and you want to fire them off to me, I'm always happy to answer. So, all right. Anything else, Megan?
Yes, I would just like to thank Jason for his time and wisdom and experience. That was very helpful. Some great tidbits there to take away. And would thank our participants for being with us and ask that you would take just a second to complete the evaluation form. I put the link in the chat box for you. It's tiny.utk.edu/webinar eval. And it just takes a couple of minutes to do that. But we really, really appreciate it. It's really valuable to us in a lot of ways. We will have Jason back a couple of more times in the remainder of our series, and look forward to having him back to share some more knowledge about social media, various aspects of social media marketing. So thank you all. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next month.